now, is he your front runner to win that award back-to-back years?
Well, in my opinion, the award should be renamed the Lou Williams Sixth Man of the Year award.
That's a good point.
So he would definitely have my vote. Spencer Dinwiddie, I think, deserves a lot of votes for what he has been able to accomplish out in Brooklyn. But my vote would definitely go to Lou Williams today.
Listen, I love Lou Williams. I think he's might be the best value in the NBA. When you look at his contract and what he's done, especially here, in year, 14? It's amazing. I'm just, it's what gets lost. We talk so much about his scoring. He averages over 5 assists a game coming off the bench. One of the league leaders in that category for bench players as well. Gets to the free throw line. Just a matchup nightmare for opposing teams, and there are often times where he's going to be asked to carry the load from an offensive standpoint. Having said all that, I would probably go with Dinwiddie in Brooklyn, in part because no one saw the Brooklyn Nets being where they are right now with an opportunity to be a playoff team. I just find that to be pretty impressive, and I like the reward winning. Clippers got a chance to get there as well. But I do think you got to give that young man a lot of credit for what he's done this season.
It should be noted that Lou Will started 19 games last year and won the award. He has not started any games this year, so he is certainly in contention. But someone that may go overlooked even in this discussion, his teammate, Montrezl Harrell, who's also coming off the bench, shooting 62% from the field, getting a lot of those assists from Lou Will, but also averaging 16 points a game. This is why they have the best or the highest scoring bench in the league.
Yeah, and when you start to think about the Clippers' future, of course, Montrezl Harrell, a guy that they were able to have return, plays the game hard, does all of the utility things. I don't know if Doc Rivers ever calls a play for Harrell. He just goes out and gets it done. So when we start to talk about the Clippers in free agency this summer, if you're one of those max guys as free agents and you're looking at guys like Lou Williams on a low contract, you're looking at guys like Montrezl Harrell, guys that are comfortable coming off the bench and uplifting the team, making things happen, you could see yourself stepping into that, and those are two guys that help their cause.
Give Doc and give that entire front office a lot of credit because the moves they've made have put them in a position, to your point. Like, we keep looking at all these free agent destinations, and one thing that those A-list free agents are looking for, they want to win. It's not about the money. They're going to get that wherever they go, but they want to go where they can have the greatest impact, and that typically is going to be a team that has veterans that are comfortable playing, comfortable winning games. And now if you can go bring an A-list guy or two into that Clippers roster, I mean, that you're talking potentially a contender with what they've been able to do to this point. You bring two guys, hypothetically, a Durant and a Kyrie or a Kawhi and somebody of that ilk, you're going to, I think, really take that team to a whole new level. And listen, there's a very good chance that Golden State, as we know them, may not exist after this season. So that kind of opens things up in the West, much like when LeBron left the East this year, it did last season.
You know, what you just did there, that's a harbinger. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. But first, we have to hear from Mike Malone, who has to try to slow this down. Look at those bench points. 52, almost 53 a game. So what's Mike Malone's plan?
To me, the game plan doesn't change. Your biggest concerns are the rebounding battle. Montrez has just been a beast on the glass. The one loss to this team, they had 80 points in our paint. Who's going to win the battle of the paint? And the biggest thing is, they have the best bench in arguably NBA history. 53 points a night off their bench, and obviously Lou Williams and Montrez are a big part of that. But JaMychal Green has played well in a Clipper uniform, Garrett Temple. So it's going to be a heck of a challenge. So different faces, but, the same challenges are presenting themselves.
Which of those two guys are you more concerned with coming off the bench, Williams or Montrez?
I'm concerned with Lou Montrez. They both present problems. I mean, you have to love watching Montrez play. The tenacity, the aggressiveness, the physicality. He imposes his will on the game. And that's by screening and rolling. That's by working for second chance opportunities. That's for running in transition and sitting down in the paint and getting a deep paint catch. And then Lou Williams, the biggest challenge with him, obviously, is can you defend him without fouling? After James Harden, I would say Lou Williams is probably the best at drawing fouls and getting to the free throw line. And last game that we beat them, he only went there 6 times. And the team that's won the rebounding battle in our 3 matchups has won the game. And that's why I think that's going to be a key tonight. So we'll see if we're ready for that challenge.
So he made the joke of the same discussion we're having, and he says Lou Montrez. I mean, those two guys is a combination, but most benches around the league, they don't have 2 guys coming off the bench with that kind of synergy that play this many minutes together.
Yeah, most teams do not, and it's a big part of the Clippers' success, and there's a willingness to be those players. You don't read about Lou Williams or Montrezl Harrell complaining about wanting more minutes, wanting to be starters. They are comfortable and willing to play whatever role the coach, the organization needs for those guys to be successful. Mike Malone also talked about rebounding, right? And think about it. A guy that's in contention for Coach of the Year, he's not thinking about all these fancy out-of-bounds plays, all these trickery X's and O's. Whichever team wins the rebound game has won the matchup between these 2 groups. So winning is simple. And having guys like Lou and Montrez that are willing to do those simple things, that helps a lot.
And you know, you talk about their bench, but I look at the Clippers as having 7 starters. Because really, when you think about Lou Williams and you think about Montrezl Harrell, they've been 2 of the arguably most consistent players on their entire roster. And so it's more of a luxury that they have. A lot of times when you have the kind of depth they have, it's because the starters maybe aren't quite as good. And from a balance standpoint, you want to bring those guys off the bench. But to Derek's point, they're comfortable. They've embraced their roles. And that's, as a coach, that's the first thing you want, is you want to put guys in a position where they're comfortable. And those 2 are thriving. I mean, Montrezl Harrell, when you think about where he was the first half of last season to now, this guy has really established himself as a force, especially coming off that bench. And, man, the fact that you can rely on those 2 guys every night. It's not like, we'll see if they got them. No, you're going to get them. That's a luxury for Doc Rivers to have with that Clippers team.
Also a luxury for the owner, Steve Ballmer, who spoke to Jared Greenberg and seems extremely excited for where his team is right now.
We're never going to screw around. We're always going to play hard. We're always going to play to win. We're not going to, let's step back. No, we're after it. Right. We're going to compete. We're going to make playoffs this year. If anybody in our team has anything to do with it, we're going to play hard, play tough. That's number 1. We got good culture, I think. Right. Number 2, we are in Los Angeles, California.
Yeah, that's true.
Not a bad place to be.
Not at all.
People like to live in LA.
I'm in the valley.
There you go. I live in the valley. People like to live there.
Yeah.
Number 3, I think people know I'm committed. And,
that's for sure.
At the end of the day, owners only have certain impact, but the impact the owner has is important.
Without question.
And then people see we have Jerry West, we've got Doc Rivers.
Right.
Doc's the championship coach, one of the best coaches out there for sure.
Right.
Lawrence Frank. I think people respect the talent we put together, coach, front office. Guys see who we have on our team. And we've got some really good players playing for us. And I think, guys may want to come play with Lou Williams, Montrezl Harrell, Pat Beverly, our young guys.
I don't know if you were channeling your inner Steve Ballmer earlier, but his sales pitch sounded a lot like what you were saying about, look, we already have these great players in place. So if you're Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, a free agent this summer, this is a great destination for you. Kawhi Leonard?
It is, and simply because, again, they got everything but the franchise caliber players in place. And so they're going to have the opportunity to make that pitch. Now, the flip of all of this is it all sounds great but if you don't get the guys, now you create that void. So they're in a position to make the pitch. They've got the roster, the facilities. They got the ownership in place that money's not going to be an issue. But it's still going to come down to whether or not those A-list free agents think that this is the place they can go, Derek, to win a championship.
Right, and that's true. I think you're right, what you said earlier about these guys want to win. They're not going to L.A. for the sunshine and the beach. If there's not going to be some winning involved, they're not going to make that type of sacrifice, take their families or whatever they have, and move to L.A. But the second part of it, I think, for what the Clippers have done and are doing, is that they're playing in a way, and they've established a culture, like Steve Ballmer said, that whether those guys come or not, if they're healthy and Doc Rivers is there, they're going to contend for 8 spots in the West year in and year out. And so when you start then thinking about adding more talent, developing guys like Gilgeous-Alexander, they have a chance to continue to compete and be good, and they're not throwing out everything just to chase after one guy, and then with no pie in the sky, they're done after that. I think the Clippers are well positioned to compete for many years to come because of the way they've established their culture.
I mean, you think of the guys they've traded away and how great they are right now. Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, and now Tobias Harris. And there they are, currently sitting in a playoff spot out west, a very, very vaunted playoff spot.
Both these teams, if you think about the stars they've traded the last couple of years.
That's absolutely correct. A guy with a rising star and all-star, Nikola Vucevic, going to work for the Orlando Magic against the Toronto Raptors. That's up next. You're watching the Auto Trader pregame show.
He lives, eats, sleeps, breathes basketball.